So many financial advisors are standing at a crossroads at this very moment, and the work is getting heavier. The rules are changing. The pressure of running your own business is really, it's there. It's undeniable. It's definitely there. I have these conversations over and over every single week. And it's, for many, I think, starting to feel like a job inside of a job. It's really crazy. And sometimes people think, man, all I want to be is a financial advisor. That's what I want to be. But at the same time, the idea of joining a bigger structure, brings its own questions. Do you sort of make another plan and all of that? So what do you gain? What do you lose? And how do you know whether it is the right move or the wrong one, which it could very well be as well. Today, I'm going to unpack these crossroads, and I'm going to talk to Zeyn Ali. He's here from Fairbairn, and I want to unpack all of this with him and see how do they see these things playing out, but also, what are the lessons learned? When should you, when shouldn't you? How do you know whether you should or shouldn't? Like all that kind of stuff. So we're going to talk to Zeyn about that. Let's start it off for the last time in 2025. Welcome to Propulsion, the weekly show for financial planners and advisors who want to build better, more successful businesses. I'm your host, Francois du Toit, and every week we dive into the practical strategies that matter, from growing your client base and improving your services to developing yourself and your team. Whether you're running your own practice or you're part of a larger firm, you are guaranteed to find actionable insights to help your business thrive. So with that, welcome, and let's get into today's episode. Alrighty, so Zeyn is the Chief Operations Officer at Fairbairn Consult, where he focuses on building a space that helps advisors do their best work without carrying the full weight of regulation and admin and complexity on their own. He has a strong background in operational strategy, a people-first leadership style, and a passion for creating structures that support real growth. Since joining Fairbairn Consult, he has played a key role in shaping the systems. We spoke about that at one of the events as well, the processes, the tech, and all of that, and that all of the advisors rely on at this point. So Zeyn also holds an MBA, postgraduate qualification in financial planning, and a management program through WITS. And he did tell me before the show that he does something very different from what he was trained for. So good morning, Zeyn. Warm welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Francois. Always good to be here with you, and good morning to all the listeners and my fellow hosts as well.
Yeah, thanks, man. Sorry, we're now sort of 2 minutes later than what we were supposed to start, but it's like everybody's obviously saying things today that they don't normally talk about. So I think everybody took a bit of extra time. But I'm excited for this conversation, Zeyn. One of the things that I value about the relationship that we have with all of you at Fairbairn Consult and the way that you run the business is that it's a very open relationship. We can talk to each other, and we can share things, and we can ask things, and we can challenge each other and all that kind of stuff. So that's one of the things that I value, that if we can have these kinds of conversations, that's really, really valuable. And today, as I said earlier, I just want to unpack from both sides, basically. So not only from usually we always talk just from a Fairbairn side, like, why would you want to look at that, etc. So I want to unpack some of that, but also look at, but what about the other side? When shouldn't I come to Fairbairn or anybody like Fairbairn, for example? So I'm going to get straight into it. So when you look at what's going on at the moment right now, and we had conversations yesterday, I was at a year-end function as well yesterday, and it's like these things are top of mind for everybody. What signs show to you that a solo advisor, like the typical old one-man bands, I'm going to say old, the traditional one-man bands, one-woman bands kind of thing, that they might be reaching that point where working alone is starting to hold them back at this point in time?
Sure. Thanks, Francois. And I think that's a very important question. So the landscape is changing. And if we look at the first tangible thing to come out of COFI right now is omni-risk. And if you've attended some of the FSCA sessions this week and last week, I think some of their videos are posted on their YouTube channel. So I would give you, if you haven't had a listen to that, go and give that a squiz. If you look at the omni-risk report, it is a behemoth of a report that's required for advisors to now submit, as it stands currently, on a quarterly basis. And if your practice doesn't have those systems in place to kind of draw all that information in from different sources, put it, and then take that information and put it into a format that is very governed by the FSCA, which is their subtext system. So you're going to have to put it into their subtext system. And just a little note on the subtext system, it is a Microsoft Forms system. So there is no save button. And I don't want you to be halfway through that Omni risk report in the completion of it, and you haven't, and something bombs you out of the system, and then you're going to have to restart all over again. So I hope that's something that they fix. I know most of their systems currently in at the FISCA is working off a Microsoft Form system. So I mean, yesterday I had to submit our CASP's feedback to the FISCA, and it bombed us out twice. So we had to start all over again. So these are the things that can frustrate an advisor. And once Omni CBR lands next year, then we're going to go into pilot stage on the subtext system. I think in H1 next year, and we're looking at rollout in Q3, Q4 next year. So that could put a lot of strain on a practice. And remember, you're submitting all of these forms and all of this time taken away, doing all of this stuff for absolutely zero return from an income perspective. So this is time away from you that you could be spending with your clients. So if you're not that savvy in this, and you don't want to be, because advising is your dominant is your primary focus in your practice, then I think joining a reputable network or FSP might be an option for you. Yeah. So that's just some of the stuff that, and of course, there's always the tech enablement, as most of us are surging ahead on the tech front. There's investment in tech in your own practice that you may not want to make, and you want to leave that decision making to the FSP or to the network that you're joining. So that takes away that headache. So those are the things that we are picking up in the landscape. That's going to start pushing advisors to start thinking differently about, should I go it alone or should I join a network?
Yeah. And I mean, on that note, sort of, Zeyn, what are the kind of questions that advisors should be asking themselves? So, because they often get to a point where they go like, I'm just need to push through this. It's like, do I do that? Or I mean, there's people who have made this move that I thought would never, so-called give up their independence, and I'm not just talking from a product point of view, or that I can advise on whatever I want. I'm not talking about just that independence, right? There's independence of making choices and doing things the way I want to do it, and like there's lots of stuff that goes into it. But inevitably, a lot of them get to a point where they go like, should I just push through? Is this going to work for me? Is it not? But what are the kind of questions that they need to maybe ask themselves when they start feeling or thinking like that, in order to sort of start moving in a direction or moving closer to an answer to that?
Yeah, sure. Francois, I think the first question to ask is, what about independence still appeals to you as an advisor? So is it having 812 different product provider codes? That's something that appeals to you? Maybe then you need to find a network that allows for that. If what are the deal breakers in those questions? So do you want to be managed? Do you not want to be managed? What does that feel like in your business? Do you want to be a part of a bigger community, or do you still want to go at it solo? Because don't downplay the importance of being part of a community. What you've created here is a community. And just looking at the comments in the chat, and the talks that I've attended and the sessions that I've attended, there's such a cool thing about being a part of a community. So that, I don't think, ever downplay that, because community is absolutely important, especially with all the regulatory change that's coming our way. And make no mistake, we are going to be in a bit of a bumpy ride for the next 5 years, I would say, because COFI is just unpacking itself now. As I said, Omni risk is the first tangible thing to come out of that. And I think an advisor ultimately has to ask themselves the question, do you want to still be your own boss? And what does that mean? If you join a network, do you still have autonomy over your practice? Because there are networks that provide you with that autonomy over your practice. So these are the questions that you need to ask, and then you need to sit down and divide between what are the deal breakers and what are the nice to haves. So the deal breakers, if in a network doesn't is has got things that absolute deal breakers for you, then don't go that route. But if they're nice to haves in your practice, maybe it's time to rethink that joining a larger community might have more benefit to you going forward than you possibly could imagine.
So I'm trying to sort of simplify this, right? So to say, I've thought about this quite a bit, Zane. So I guess you've got to be clear because, like, why did you go independent in the first place? Like, what was the thing that made you do that? Some people, that's how they started. Other people were tired and they decided that's not for them. They want to become independent. And as you say, like, there are different aspects on which one build their value proposition to their clients, right? And that's why, and often independence and the breadth of product is sort of still linked, unfortunately. But would it not? So, for example, I've got to decide: do I want to just be a financial advisor? And I say just that I'm not downplaying the role. I'm just saying, do I just want to be that, or do I want to build a business? Because those two things, I think, is a very clear thing. Now, it's not, you can obviously do both. And I think if you do a business, you can absolutely be a financial advisor. I think it's very hard if you just want to be a financial advisor to also, sometimes build the business, because that's not really what you want to do. You really just created a job for yourself, and you want to look after clients, you want to care for people, you want to make a real difference in the lives and in the country. But ultimately, the fun has been sucked out of that, maybe on one level, or not even that. There is just so many things that you now have to do that you didn't want to do before. So that's that side of it. But if I said, well, I'm building a Fairbairn Consult, for example, like I'm building a business, right? Then it's just part of the game, right? So is it a mindset thing that could also help you decide on, whether you should or shouldn't? So is that one of the questions that one can ask yourself, or how do you
Yeah.
view?
So yeah, that's there's trade-offs in this decision making. Okay, like any decision making that you're going to go through in your life, there's gonna be trade-offs. So if you want to build something that is huge and humongous, and you want to go at it alone, and you want to have this legacy that is got, you want to build another Fairbairn Consult, for example, then go ahead and do that. But understand that comes with its challenges, and if you're prepared for it, and it comes with a lot of investment, as you can imagine, and you need to have deep pockets. So then go ahead and build yourself one like that. But if you're an advisor sitting out there, and you're saying, okay, we can do two things: we can give good advice, and we can build a business. I would take that further and say, are you building a business of value? That's important. Because if you join a network like such as ourselves, and there are other networks out there, if you join a network like Fairbairn Consult, then you are giving yourself the freedom to do what you're good at. That is giving good advice to your clients. So you don't have to make decisions around systems, CRM systems, beeswax, AML screening, dealing with the FSCA for complaints, so complaints management. All of that stuff gets taken care of by the network itself, and it allows you time to go and render good financial advice, categorize your clients into A, B, and C categories, whether they're into whatever practice management principles you want to adopt and use in your specific practice. It allows you to focus and build a business of value. Now, the second part of that, building a business of value, in a network, you are going to have a community. And as part of a community, you're going to have a community of buyers and sellers. So you're already in as part of a network. You've already built a brand within that network. You've already met your colleagues that belong in that network. That allows you to to tap into a willing buyer base when you've built this business of value. So building a business of value can involve deep pockets. If you've got that, go and build it yourself. But if you don't, and you want to focus on the things that you're good at, which is giving great financial advice, you can build a business of value, a practice of value that can be saleable later. And if you're part of a larger community in a network, then you've got a network, a market space for willing buyers and sellers, which makes life a little bit easier.
Yeah. Zain, so you keep using the word network. Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit. Like, what does that really mean? So if you say, like, join a network, what does that mean? How is that different from like you have an FSP and you employ me as a financial advisor, or like I'm gathering from what you're saying that there's a difference between me being employed by you and me plugging into a network. Am I plugging into a network, or are we using words interchangeably that actually mean the same thing? So can you unpack that a little bit just for clarity?
Good question, Francois. And I think with us, you are not an employee of Fairbairn Consult. So I can't speak for the other arrangements out there, but I can speak for Fairbairn Consult. With us, you are definitely not an employee. You are a mandated agent, a mandated representative that works on a mandate. Now that allows you a few things. That means, as part of belonging to Fairbairn Consult, you retain your own brand and image. So we're not going to take that away. You've spent decades building this legacy and building this brand. We're not going to come in and gobble that up and say now that you know what, you're going to have to brand your office everything FC related. That just makes no sense. There is fiscal, so obviously there's phase requirements to say that you are a member of an approved mandate of Fairbairn Consultant. That's nice and small on your signature, but your brand remains intact. So we're basically an umbrella for IFAs, if you will. So an independent advisor wants to join us, take away all the hassles of compliance and regulation and systems and all of that stuff, and Omni CBR and COFI and all that stuff coming our way, takes all of that stuff away, keeps the box that they join us with. So they keep their brand, they keep their logos. And in a network like ours, because you're not an employee, you don't get managed. Nobody is ever calling you into a Monday morning meeting and saying, you need to write X amount of risk business, or why haven't you written X amount of your clients last week? None of that stuff happens. You stay as you are. Your box stays intact. You're just lifting and shifting home from one license into our license, and you remain the same. For us, your independence is super important, even though we can't use the word independent once you join a network like ours, because we have the majority shareholding is via a product provider. So it's a phase legislation that you can't use the word independent. So that's why we use the catch line of providing unbiased advice to your clients. So you join somebody like us, and I use the word network because you're not an employee and you're joining a bigger community. You're allowed to still keep your relationships intact. You still write business where you want to write business. We actually give you, we open you up to 100. We've got 122 different product provider codes that belong to our network. Everything from medical aid, medical gap, short-term gap, risk, investment, banking. We've even got a crypto license now. So we allow you to choose product providers that you want to sell and want to have a relationship with. So none of that changes. You keep your independence in inverted commas, so you don't get managed. We do not have any hidden terms and conditions in our. So you'll notice one of our values, and it's embedded in everything that we do. We are unashamedly, and I say this again, we are unashamedly an advisor-led business. So we're not a client-led business. We're an advisor-led business. And we take that because we believe that if we make life simple for our advisors, we provide them with the right tools, we provide them with the best CRM systems, we provide them with the best support, then that in turn will ripple down into the clients, and clients will have better experiences. So we are unashamedly an advisor-led business. So being part of a network, you get all of that benefit, and being part of our network, you get all of that benefit. And I think the big thing here for us is that you get supported and not managed. That's important. You get supported, so we support you, but we do not manage you. And I think that's been the appeal largely that's got us to grow at the rate that we've been growing, is that advisors join us and they realize very quickly, okay, I'm actually not losing my independence. I'm just shifting home, and I'm getting rid of a lot of the stuff that sits on the back of my head. It's now a Zeyn and a Guy problem. Things like the submissions to the FISCA, things like client complaints. So when we say we support you, if there's a client complaint, you don't deal with it. I do. That's a Zeyn problem. I deal with that. When there's systems that need to be built for the new Omni Risk, that's already something that I'm working on internally with our product providers and product suppliers. That's a Zeyn problem. Any regulation coming our way, we interpret it and we tell you how to embed that in your practice. So we support you. And that's a big difference between being supported and managed. We definitely do not manage anyone. We support you. It's a long-winded answer. I hope I've kind of answered your question, Francois.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant, Zane. So, and the one thing, like just tongue in cheek, yeah, if you're in Fairbairn, you always know a guy, you know, so that does work as well. But and it's quite interesting to you, and I'm glad you unpacked it the way that you did, because I mean one of the questions I have is like, I mean, have you brought people into your network that it didn't work?
Absolutely.
And so I don't want names. I don't want facts. Well, I want facts, but you know, for PR safe facts. But so you say yes, there was like that. What was the thing that both of you missed? Why did it not work? Like, what was that reason for in those instances? Because there's plenty of people who it works for, but the ones that didn't work, what were the things?
So, you know, being independent, a lot of guys, we've noticed that there's been some individuals, not all, some. And so we've had a handful. I can't say that this is a huge problem for us. It hasn't been a huge problem for us, but there's most certainly been, I can count them on one hand, the amount of people that we've had that we be like, this is not a right fit. Is we've had people that have come out, particularly from the banking space, that want to go independent, and it sounds all very sexy, and it sounds like, I'm going to go independent and I'm going to do my own thing, and they want to have a softer landing, so they join a network like ourselves, and they very quickly realize that sometimes you can become institutionalized where you need management. And some people don't realize that you actually need management, and you need somebody to be over you all the time, and you get so used to that kind of style, that to adapt to be, when you get to an office and there's nobody there telling you what to write, where to write, why aren't you writing, how many clients to see. There's nobody walking into your office and saying, here's the leads, this is how you're going to go about it, I got a big client, can you come and see a bank account? So we've noticed that in certain instances those things don't work. We've also noticed that where we try as best as possible to make our stance on certain types of products known before you join us. So we quite clear that we don't like to attract large franchises that are predominantly aimed at the funeral benefit market solely. If you're selling funeral benefits as part of a holistic financial plan, that's a different conversation to be had. But there's a lot of practices that would like to join us, but they're predominantly focused on funeral plans, and it just doesn't work. We've tried it; it doesn't work. We're not geared for that kind of business. We don't want that kind of business. We think there's a need for it, but just not in our space. So yeah, we do have advisors that we've sat down with and we said, I don't think this is going to work. Some of you, maybe a banking environment might be best suited to your personality type. You gave it a shot, but I don't think this is going to work, and we don't want to see you fail, and we don't want to set anyone else up for failure. Also, because you're working independent and you're working on our license, we expect, and you don't get managed, and you get absolutely supported. We do expect that there's reciprocity here. And the only things we ask you to do, and we actually have this in our onboarding presentation, which I do, is have the right attitude, be kind to our staff and to your clients, do the right thing, and make compliance a part of your process. If you're going to see compliance as this other thing that you've got to do, um, I think find another place to be, because we're quite strict on that. In fact, we reward our advisors. Our annual incentive, our annual awards is all geared towards what we call the Extra Mile Club. And that is geared towards advice. There are no sales targets in there. So we look at your practice management, we look at the advice rendered, we look at whether there were any complaints coming through from any of your clients. We look at your advice process. You must have a documented advice process, which includes all of your forms that you require each step of the way. How are you interacting with your clients, all the way right through to review? So that's what we expect from you. And people come into our space and say, yeah, I can do that, and it's all in my head, but they can't document it. And we can see that, this is not going anywhere. It's going nowhere fast. Where you're taking compliance as a mere suggestion, then we will sit down and have that conversation with you, and we'll say, I think this is not going to work. We give you, obviously, we try and support you to try and remedy that. But if it's not something that you take seriously, then unfortunately we part ways at that particular point in time. There are other reasons, but I mean, these are the few top ones that I can think of. As I said, we haven't had many of these, but there are most certainly have been cases.
Yeah. I think that it's always very helpful to just think about it from that point of view, because this is also about what is important to you as the individual, and when you make these decisions, because you've got to start with yourself first and then understand why are you looking, why, are you getting to a point, are you fighting a losing battle, or is it a temporary thing that's going on at the moment? And I think that's also hard sometimes for people to do, because there are often things that you could do, but because you never have time to go and do it, you never do it. And then it feels like it's just this perpetuating problem. And then at some point you give up where it could have been an easy fix. And then there are other things. And it's interesting to me listening at the FPI convention to that panel discussion where we had Ryk van die Kerk and Maya Fisher-French and Justice Malala on. I don't know if you saw that. But this was the whole thing around, lots of stuff that's going on at the moment. And they were saying we are overregulated. And I think the regulators are very what are you talking about? We're not over-regulating. So it's these very two different views on that. But surely on the ground we are feeling all of this stuff. And it's not only the complying, Zeyn. I think it's also I've got to learn this stuff now. I've got to learn about the omnibus. Look, my brain just blew when you said it's a Microsoft form. What? Wow. Give them my number. Okay, so we can sort them out. But it's crazy. But anyway, so I just want to be clear. I'm not fighting for either one. I think for me, what we try and do at PROpulsion is that we want to lift the profession. We want to lift all boats. I don't really care where you sit. That's the first and foremost thing. We want to make it better for everyone, so we can have great lives, build great businesses, and do good things. And then secondly, I want to try and keep the independent. And if they don't want to be independent, I want to find them the best home possible where they can go and live out their passion and their purpose. So that's really my thing. But Zeyn, I mean, yes, there's actually a lot of questions I still want to ask you. So probably one that we can maybe sort of end off with is the whole thing around the inverted commas independence. Because a lot of people, I've had lots of conversations these last 2 weeks, funny enough, and they often ask me, or their statements would be that, but so as you mentioned, definition-wise, you can't say that you're independent. How do you ensure? What does it look like when you are part of a business that's owned by a big other business, by a product provider, whatever, but you are truly allowed to do whatever you want to do, work with who you want to work. There's no yeah, man, but you should look at this, and yeah, man, but you should look at this. That kind of stuff, that emotional, moral pressure that's been put on people sometimes. Just talk a little bit about that, because I think that's also a real thing that people struggle with.
So fortunately, we've got 200 case studies that I can draw from in terms of advisors that have joined us. I often get calls, probably, and Guy, we probably get calls from our advisors that have just joined us, maybe a month or two into joining the Fairbairn Consult Network or IFA. And the comment is always similar. You guys really don't manage anyone, is the one thing. And two, there's no pressure to write business or place business with any particular product provider. We've always been very upfront and straightforward about that. That is why we don't even have our own DFM, because we do not want to participate in that space, because there's going to be a point where we will sit down and decide, okay, we're actually making some money off this DFM. So we will then either very, tactfully try and steer people in there, or just adopt a sledgehammer style and get you to transfer all your funds into our DFM. So we've made those decisions in our business, and we will stand by those decisions. We've been very fair with all of our product providers, that we do not hand out our advisors' numbers. There's ways and means that you will be allowed to actually present to them, and we make that across the board. It doesn't matter that we've got a shareholder that's majority shareholder, that's a product provider. We've taken the stance that we want to keep our business transparent, simple, and we want to be the umbrella for IFAs that are working out there. So those we don't have hidden terms and conditions on our other important thing. When advisors, and my advice to you, and we've seen this too many times, when advisors want to join a network or are thinking about it, read the contract, and then read the contract. Make sure that those contracts don't have any restraint of trades, and make sure that those contracts are clear, that if you had to leave the network for whatever reason, that you can take your clients, and that those clients are truly your clients, that you can take those clients and exit. You'll be amazed at how many guys that want to, and girls that actually want to join our network. But when they look at it, when we say to them, have a look at your contract and see if that's possible, and they quickly realize, oh no, I've been tied into a restraint of trade, I can't take my clients with. We've seen absolutely horrific stuff taking place out there. So, as I said, we be transparent. We have none of that. If you want to leave, we actually help you exit your clients. We give you 3 months. We write friendly letters to your clients, wishing you all the best. And because we're not a client acquisition business. We like you, and I think that's why we've partnered with Propulsion. We aligned that we want to be a safe place for independent financial advisors, either working paka independent solo on your own, but we've provided an environment that you can still be that and still maintain all of that. You just work under our license, and you don't have to worry about a whole bunch of stuff that's compliance and reg related, and people trying to steal your clients or to wrap you up in fancy and complicated restraint of trades.
Zeyn, thank you very much. It went so quick. We are 3 minutes over time. So it was a good discussion. Thank you so much. If anybody wants to follow Zeyn or get in touch with Zeyn, LinkedIn is the easiest. I can also put you in touch. Ben can put you in touch, and whoever wants to talk to him if you wanted to. But yeah, definitely follow Zeyn on LinkedIn. And then, Zeyn, thank you very much for joining us and for the good work that you guys are doing. I do believe that you are one of the good guys. There's a few good guys out there, and you are for sure. Fairbairn is one of those. So thank you very much. And yeah, I'll leave the last word to you.
Thank you, Francois. And I think it's been an absolute privilege for me getting to know you a lot better this year, and what you're doing for the industry. And I said this to you at our conference where you presented at our particular conference, that we truly are grateful for people like you in the industry. Yourself, even Quibus. I mean, his words were so. I just made a note of what Quibus said. He said, invest in yourself as an advisor. And that's super important. I've been a financial planner, so I understand the pains. It can be a lonely job, can be a lonely world. And it's nice to know that we've got people like yourself, Quibus, what we're trying to do at Fairbairn Consult, that we want people to feel part of a community. And thank you for creating that, Francois. It's super, super important in a world where so much a change in can feel overwhelming, that there's a quiet space that people can gather and say, hey, actually, we're okay and we feel supported. So thank you. And I wish all of the listeners all of the very best over the holidays. Take care, travel safe, and put your family first. This is your time now. Relax, unwind, and enjoy this time off.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Zeyn. Alrighty, so that's it. Season 6, done and dusted, wrapped up. Thank you very much for an incredible year. To all of the segment hosts, thank you so much for all of your contributions. You do this from the love of your heart, and we really appreciate that. Also for all the guests we had this year, for everybody, each one of you who showed up every single week, and whether you're watching the recording or you were here live, we really appreciate that. It really means a lot to us. So we will be back in 2026 with season 7, probably in February, early February, but do keep an eye on our socials and everything. We will be communicating that. So yeah, looking forward to see what we have up our sleeves for next year. But thank you so much. If you've got any suggestions, ideas, anything like that, please send it to us. And then until we see each other again, stay safe, be blessed and prosper, and continue to raise the bar. And very importantly, stay curious. Have a good rest, and we love you all very much. Thank you. Thanks for joining us on Propulsion. If you found value in today's episode, then there's plenty more where this came from. You can find all our previous episodes right here on the podcast, as well as on our YouTube channel. And talking about the YouTube channel, we go live every single Friday at 8 a.m. until 9 a.m. and we host many different guests, and we also talk about very interesting topics. And on the live show, there's also some incredible segments hosted by some of the most well-known and influential financial planning professionals. So you are most welcome to join us every single Friday. Put it in your diary and we will see you there. And on that note, also please do check out propulsion.co.za/community for all of the goodness, and learn more about how you can become part of our amazing community and how that would benefit you, your business, and your career. So on that note, stay curious and keep raising the bar.